Throughout Physics 101, we have been examining our physical world. But does this physical world really exist? How sure are we that this reality that we experience is real? Could this all be an illusion? Am I real? Are you real? The answer may not be as simple as one may want to believe. Suppose that in one situation you are fighting in a battle, and in another you are just vividly dreaming about yourself fighting in a battle. In both situations, your experience would be identical because our senses are an unreliable source of information. Touch, taste, sight, smell, hearing. These sensory routes are an untrustworthy source of information. For example, if you are just playing outside in cold weather and you come back to wash your hands, room temperature water will feel very hot to your hands. But there is one thing that's certain. If you are thinking about whether reality is real, you yourself are real. Because you could not think if you were not real. You exist as a thing that's thinking, as a thing that's questioning its existence. You might not be able to know if your body is real, but your mind is real. Because there must be something having the thoughts that you're having. This is the philosophy of 17th century French mathematician René Descartes. Remember him? He's the guy who studied moving objects like Galileo Galilei and Isaac Newton did. Descartes summarized his argument with the famous statement, "I think, therefore I am." From this, Descartes was able to conclude that yes, the physical world does indeed exist, that reality is real. But his idea was challenged greatly. Descartes was a rationalist, a fierce rationalist. He believed that the best way to understand the nature of reality was through logic and deduction and basic reasoning. This idea is called rationalism. However, his formal opponents disliked the idea of rationalism. They believed in empiricism. Empiricism is the idea that the scientific method, experimentation, and our senses are the best source of knowledge. One empiricist was the Englishman John Locke. According to Locke, all objects had two sets of qualities, primary and secondary qualities. Take, for example, this orange. Oh, gotta stop doing that. Take, for example, Take, for example, this orange. This orange has a mass and a height. These are intrinsic qualities that we cannot disagree upon. The orange also, however, has color, texture, taste, and smell. These are qualities that we can disagree upon. For example, what shade of orange is this orange? Does it taste sour or does it taste sweet? What does it smell like? We are probably going to have an argument about these, but we cannot disagree on its primary qualities. They don't change with how they are perceived. They are unequivocal and numerically defined. Now, the trouble arises when we try examining the relationship between primary and secondary qualities. This is what Irishman George Berkeley first did. If you look at the orange for the first time, you see both its primary and secondary qualities at once, at the same time. For example, you see its color and you see its height. You cannot see its height without seeing its color, because if you don't see its color, you don't see the orange at all. So in a way, primary qualities are dependent on perception. In conclusion, George Berkeley argued, physical existence is impossible. There's only perception. His view went like this. Can you think of an orange that isn't being thought of? You cannot think of an orange that exists without being thought of. The orange exists only when it is perceived. George Berkeley summarized this argument of his with the famous statement, "To be is to be perceived." Suppose there's a car behind me and I'm not perceiving it. Since it isn't being perceived, does it mean that it doesn't exist at all? No, George Berkeley didn't think so. He believed that everything still exists despite not being perceived by us, because it is being perceived by God. God is watching over all of us, all the time. That's why we've been existing for all this time. But does time exist? Does God exist? Hi, thank you for watching this video. If you feel certain explanations weren't understandable, or you have any questions related to them, please write to me in the comment section or through Gmail. If you'd like to know which resources have been used to research and create this video, I've linked a document containing them underneath. I have also linked a short worksheet that you can solve to test your understanding of this topic. Goodbye.